Hello, 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 and welcome to the next episode of Pop Culture Therapy. I'm Corella Cocaine.
Hello, it's Advent Nebula.
And this week,
it's charity in the anime community.
And how it has grown, and why it would be great to see it more often throughout the year.
Yeah. So, we've been going to anime conventions for almost 20 years now, and we've seen the charity auctions out here, and as we've gone across the country, with the exception of maybe two of them, we've seen very, very generous charity auctions for what they're holding them for.
And so, for awareness, for most anime conventions, I would say probably about 75% of them, they are actually nonprofit organizations. So one of the core responsibilities of a nonprofit organization is giving back to the community. So it is a requirement for them. Now, for any of the conventions that are for profit, which there are many, and if we include all conventions, it still would be about 75-25% split. 75% being nonprofit, 25 being for profit for anything.
Yeah,
it can include Comic-Cons, anything like that.
Yeah, your largest 5 conventions in the country, 4 of them are for-profit, 1 of them is a non-profit, but when you get to the smaller level, your majority are going to be the non-profit side.
And so I would say probably about 90% of all conventions, both large and small, actually host charity events. And with the for-profit ones, even though it's not part of their core requirements like it would be for 503 or 501, which are typically the 2 codes for nonprofit organizations, for-profits, especially in the convention circuit, typically still like to give back to the community because why not?
Yeah, and they're usually more of a silent auction or an art silent auction usually at your for-profit conventions, where your nonprofit conventions usually hold a large-scale charity auction on top of having silent auctions and then other ways to collect funds that are going to be going to the nonprofit, be it themselves or a charity that they are actually hosting.
Exactly. So we're not going to talk about the pros and cons here, but of any kind of convention, specifically anime, because there's no right or wrong if it's for-profit or non-profit.
As long as you're giving back to the community, you are doing something good.
Exactly. Now, you may hear people around the country talk about specific conventions, may have feedback of like what is good and what is bad. I would listen to your local communities on that or your own experience.
Yeah, and then when you're at the convention, look at what they're funding for the charity auction, because it might be just some local entity that they're funding this for, or it might be a national one. And sometimes when they're funding for a national one, there may be some pros and cons to that. But when they're doing something like most recent convention we were at, they were funding for relief funds for the Marshall Fire that happened a few days before New Year's Eve.
Here in Colorado. So the nonprofit charity that we're speaking of for the most recent convention, Colorado Anime Fest, is called Lending a Hand. And it was a nonprofit that was birthed due to the pandemic to help individuals that are low income, that may have not been able to receive the services and support they have had. And it allows families or individuals to be able to donate specifically to everyone, like as a regular donation, or adopt a family and help them with different things, not paying for their life, but giving them a hand up wherever they can.
And to give an example of one year when we were at Anime Do Tour, one of their charity auctions was going to Project Angel Heart. If you don't know what that is, that's a nationwide organization that helps deliver food to elderly and disabled people that can't leave their homes so they can actually have healthy meals throughout the week.
Exactly. So I always recommend, if you're looking for a convention to go to that's local, out of state, and you want to go to a convention that you feel speaks to you in a way. A lot of people look at what they do charity-wise. And many conventions, worth a damn, or worth a salt, whatever you want to put it, typically will list on their website charities that they have supported. And
or charities that they work throughout the year that they volunteer with, even if they aren't who's going to be their host for their charity stuff.
Exactly. So it's a great opportunity. And what has really evolved over the years with doing these charity events is that you're getting a lot of one-of-a-kind pieces. And I'm not saying one-of-a-kind pieces of fan art. Yes, there are that, and we can get into what that looks like.
But there's animation cells which are becoming a lost art to even find anymore at some of these charity auctions.
You're getting animation cells, like you said, which I think are awesome because everything is digital now, and these are hand-drawn cells. Or you're also finding what they call our printer proofs. These are proofs which Kaiju has probably shared pictures of our living room with many of the ones that we have. And these are proofs that are made to design the Blu-ray copy or 4K copy, depending on what it is, to show what it will look like publicly.
And he has one of them that actually was one that did not get approved for the final product because you can see the notations that send us back this has errors.
Mm-hmm. And so you get to see a lot of those things. You get a lot of one-of-a-kind or other out-of-print items. Or one thing that I think is really cool is if there are fan art or official art that is auctioned off, typically it is something that is signed by the entire cast of a particular show, either in English or Japanese.
Or you're getting one-of-a-kind prints that were specifically commissioned by one of the actors that's going to be attending there that's just for that auction.
Like, for example, I got a one-of-a-kind print that has Video no Otoko, Project Eiko, Bubblegum Crisis, and Appleseed. And it is signed, it has all 4 official images, and it's signed by the original director of all 4 series in Japan.
Yeah, and Kaiju's got one that's signed by Ryusei Nakao of a one-of-a-kind art print of Frieza.
And these are opportunities for you to be able to have something that nobody else in the world will have. And, okay, that is not the point of charity, but a lot of people, when they go to a charity auction, are looking to get some value for their money.
And that's a big way with charity auctions to bring people in that they're going to be going there to support the charity, but at the same time, they know they're going to get something that almost nobody else has. Because there's probably only going to be a handful, or this might be just a one-of-a-kind item that's just for this specific convention.
Like for myself and Kaiju, and I know you've spent a lot too, we have spent probably about 8-10 grand.
I'm at least at about 7,500.
And this is at various conventions, and this is over a length of time, but we have spent a lot of money because it gives us an opportunity to support the community, and we get a physical representation of our goodwill.
Yeah, Kaiju and I have been in battles over the same items before.
Yes. And while that's not necessarily the purpose, it's nice to be able to have something to memorialize what you've done. And I think it's an important way to do many things. Having like a charity room that they have at many anime conventions gives you an
sci-fi cons do this too. They'll have a charity room that's just a literal strict silent auction of goods that some of the people have brought in from all around the country, and the guests themselves have brought in just for the silent auction.
And you have an opportunity to bid, and sometimes just like the old days of eBay, you have a bidding war.
Yeah.
The reason I say old days is because everybody can click buy it now. There is no such thing as really bidding.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a bidding war anymore on eBay unless it's an exclusive item.
Which makes me so sad. I used to be that sniper who would wait until the last minute to get something I know I had no other chance of
because
getting.
Elon Musk doesn't run eBay anymore.
But so there's a lot of opportunities to support the community, have some fun stuff, and I think it's an important element of an anime convention. And
it's an important element of any nonprofit convention, no matter what you go to.
very true. So any convention, and I keep on going back to anime because you more often not see it at anime.
Yeah, you see the public auctions at the anime conventions. Like Genghis Khan out here, which is a tabletop and board game convention, they just run a silent auction for their charity stuff as well.
And silent auctions are great as well. So if you're more of an introvert or not comfortable being in a public setting, really
a lot of your tabletop gamers are this.
And sharing to the world what your financial availability is.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, there are people who will bid at some conventions up to $2,000 to $3,000. I'm married to one.
When we were at Detour and the one couple bid $8,000 in the one item.
Exactly, which that's great, but sometimes it can make some people feel uncomfortable if they don't have that money, or others uncomfortable because they really don't want to share with the public how much money they do have, because you never know what people are like. But having these auction capabilities and knowing it goes to an organization that is supporting the community in any which way, it really does, at the end of the day, make you feel like you have given back to the community in ways that you may not normally be able to. Not everybody has the capability or time to volunteer. Not everyone feels comfortable with volunteering because sometimes they're scared of that direct connection.
Yeah, and this is a great way to still support the community. When you can't volunteer, you're still giving back to the community in a way.
And by having it specifically at any convention, you also only have to focus on your thinking of your funds at that particular point. Many of us, no matter our age group and no matter what we actually have monetary wise, we're still living paycheck to paycheck, even yourself.
Even though I have a ton and saved up right now, but that's going to a house.
So you have to bide your time and save up. Now, there are parts of me that wish the auction aspect that you see at many of the conventions can exist year-round. But when you think about it, the challenge is, how would they manage it? How would they control it? Would it have to be like an eBay type style? Because you'd have to have a third party in there to manage the funding.
Yeah, and only your really large, like Dragon Con, which does over the periodic of the year, have charity auctions that are online before their actual con, but they're large enough they can actually have a third party they actually can trust.
But many of the conventions that we're looking at are much smaller, where your attendance base can be up to 20,000 people. Which,
we're not talking like a convention like Dragon Con, which has 150,000 people.
And yes, 20,000 people is nothing to be like, oh wow, that's so small. But when you've been going to conventions for a long time and you've actually seen different conventions, it's amazing when you see the difference between a 20,000 person and 150,000 person type convention. So
the space itself just can be overwhelming.
Oh yes, and not everybody is comfortable with that either. So the reason why we talk about it is because if you are wanting to get into a community where you know that you're giving back, I would recommend going to your local conventions, because compared to 20 years ago, the opportunity to support a charity and the value that you see with it, even with your small conventions, being able to donate collectively $6,000 to $10,000 is tremendous.
Yeah, back, God, I want to say 15 years ago, it was amazing just to see the amounts of money we're now seeing at some of these conventions. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember the early time going to charity auctions, and you'd be amazed just to see $3,000, because not a lot of people knew what it was or felt comfortable, because you're like, okay, is this a scam? Are we just giving more money to the convention? Because why wouldn't somebody feel that way?
But once you know, and especially once you hear the charity they're supporting, you're like, okay, we know where this is going. Exactly where this is going.
And the other cool thing is once you get into the adult world and have to do your own taxes,
Tax write-off time!
charities are tax deductible as long as it's $600 or more. And I'm not saying that you have to spend $600 at one charity, one event, or anything like that. This is throughout the entire calendar year.
It's basically from January 1st to December 31st.
So if you, so it doesn't have to be large amounts of money, but that's the great thing about charity, is it is all valuable and it's reciprocal. All good deeds don't get punished. I was going to say all good deeds don't go unpunished, but that's terrible. But you can do something good and see a benefit for yourself. And if you're looking for cool, one-of-a-kind things that you never expected to see, that's the best place to see it, because...
Yeah, I remember one sci-fi convention I went to, there was only 3 pieces of this, and they were all signed by Brett Spencer, and they were different scripts of Star Trek The Next Generation. You're not going to see that anywhere else.
We had a one-of-a-kind at one of the conventions. Sadly, we lost because we did not have the astronomical amount the other couple had, but it was a one-of-a-kind poster of Stan Lee that had his signature and it had a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah, you did not have the 18,000 that went to that one.
No, I have money, but not that much. But so you get to see really cool things, and even if you're not the one who wins or even the one who bids, there are times we go to watch these charity events, even if it's a silent auction, just to see
what people are willing to shell out for money. Because a silent auction, it's publicly there on a paper with the person's name and their phone number.
Which, thankfully, they keep control of. Actually, no. Most places do the name, and they'll do a badge number. So
I've seen it be the phone number.
Yes, I've seen it be the phone number. I'm not too kosher with that, because I'm thinking from like a human resources perspective, the possibility of bullying and making someone feel uncomfortable for their bid and trying to make them detract it or anything. So I prefer it when they do like your name and your badge number, because your badge number has all of your contact information. But just think, charity is an important thing, and more so now than ever before. Just because we're coming out of a pandemic doesn't mean that people are okay again.
Yeah, no, you gotta think about people that were coming out of the AIDS crisis in the mid-90s. It's gonna be the same kind of situation for about a decade.
Yes. So we're not here to be preachy, because I don't like being preached at. That's why I don't go to church anymore. So
that's why I've never gone to church.
Roman Catholic here. Been to church way too many times. But, well, I'm Wiccan, but raised Roman Catholic. But so with that said, hopefully you enjoyed this little snapshot podcast on the benefits of charity and kind of what to look for if you're trying to figure out a new type of convention to go to.
And with that, we'll be signing off. We do have a couple that we're kind of debating on for our next episode, but we'll be back with you shortly. And have a good day.
Yes, I promise not to be sick anytime soon. Bye!